Hi.
Hi,
Hi, Bruno.
hi, Erwin.
Hi, everybody watching.
Hello.
So nice of you to be here. So, really cool that you made it, that we're here now live. We met each other only very recently online, right?
Yes,
And it's nice that we are having this, we're able to have this dialogue right now together online, live, about AI and what it's going to mean for businesses towards the future, in the
yes,
very near future.
yes,
We said we'd take a few minutes at the beginning to introduce ourselves.
yes.
So let me hand it over to you, and you go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll do the same for me. And
Okay.
then, and I guess we'll get started.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, let's go.
Well,
So
first, if anyone has questions, please mention. We don't promise that we will answer every question, but might pick some of the questions you are giving us.
Yep.
I'm French. I was born in France already quite a time ago, but I live in the Netherlands longer than I've lived in France.
Yeah.
I studied artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
which is the topic of tonight.
Yeah.
And I've been working in the Netherlands since then, since I finished my study.
Right.
I'm author of two books.
Mhm.
One about the development of the financial industry,
Mhm.
and the latest from November last year about the impact of technology on business, on people, on society.
Yeah.
So that's a short summary.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. And what would you say is your main activity? How would you describe your job description if for your role? We were talking about this earlier in the car.
Yes, we were talking about that in the car. I really enjoy technology.
Mhm.
I follow a lot about what new developments are taking place.
Yeah.
And always thinking through what could it mean for us? How is it going to evolve? What's going to change in our life
Yeah.
through those new technology?
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the time, I can be so enthusiastic about new things that are occurring,
Yeah.
and I wonder. I say, "Oh my God! If everyone think through what this could mean for us,
Yeah.
what kind of change is taking place?"
Yeah.
I'm almost exploding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really nice. Well, I would say it's the thing I can talk about very easily,
Yeah.
and I really like to give insights to others
Mhm.
while I give keynotes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I regularly do keynotes for company events, or even companies are trying to reach their customers through a topic that
Yeah.
is connected to their business.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Yeah.
And you,
Yeah.
Erwin?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Erwin. I'm not French.
No.
I'm Dutch and Cape Verdean.
Uh-huh.
And I did not study AI. I studied psychology, actually, which is funny because I studied psychology and then decided to go a completely different direction and work in marketing, which I've
Yes.
done for the last 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And as I was working in marketing, I've always had this fascination about what is happening with technology. And I've worked most of my lifetime in the tech sector, B2B, SaaS, IT and innovation. And I couldn't help but think much like you. And I think that this is also funny. And the reason that we're here together,
Yes.
and the reason that
Uh-huh.
we connected, I couldn't help but think about, well, wow, what amazing capabilities this new evolving technologies are bringing us, and why is nobody or not enough people, standing still to say, but wait a second, what does this all mean? What does it mean that we have these new capacities, new capabilities? What do we want it to mean?
Yes.
So I would describe myself as a growth storyteller,
Yes.
which I in my work I help companies and teams and sometimes individuals to find their growth story. So who they have been, who they are, and who they're becoming toward the future. And I'm also an author. I recently published my third and fourth book,
Yes.
which I shared with you.
Yes.
One is Life Beyond AI. It's about, well, what we're going to discuss
Yes.
today. So what does the future look like? The very, very near future. And importantly to me, what do we want that future to look like
Yes.
as a consequence of the integration of AI and other technologies? And the other is growth storytelling,
Yes.
which is about exactly that. well, what is that story of the future that we want to create, and what is our part in that story?
Yes.
Well, this is maybe that book, Growth Storytelling, is maybe a way to help you figure out what that story is for you.
Yes.
So that's me.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for our discussion, or not a discussion, right? We said in dialogue. Today,
Yes.
what we had imagined is to talk with each other and for you and with you, the audience,
Yes.
about what is AI going to mean for businesses toward the future, and the near, and I suppose also the far away future,
Yes.
right?
Sure.
And what we had thought would be cool is that both of us would prepare a little bit of a short introductory vision, and then we open up the discussion and just talk to each other and ask each other questions, right?
Sure.
So I'm really curious, and literally really curious. How did that go for you? What did you end up at? What is that introductional vision that you ended up on?
Well, the funny thing is, well, I wrote, of course, the book about what's taking place right now,
Yeah.
and how we can look at the future. And I feel and I experience the first questions coming from businesses, from companies, from how can I integrate AI into my business? So there's some traction taking place there. And of course, it's obvious because it's such a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And funny enough, it looks like we have no clue, but really no clue about how strong the impact is going to be on our life, on our business, on our society. So we said we would prepare something about this topic. And I was thinking through, okay, if we take 3 levels,
Right.
The first level of, let's say, the organization, the company, and how they can look at AI. And then look within the company, how managers are going to experience it. And then at the third level, the employee.
Yeah.
What kind of experience can we expect there? And so coming back to first the experience of the company, this is going to be a very strong and extremely disruptive transformation of business. Why? We already have made a step towards digitalization, which also means that with all the data and with all the automated processes, all the information is available for an intelligent system to be able to interact with the business rules, the production rules, and all the activities that are reflected in this digital world, and take over most of the activities that are being done by the company, which is not a little thing, it's enormous.
Yeah.
And we can even think forward than that with companies that will be fully automated and enabled to operate totally independent from any supervision from human beings. Is that good or bad? This is not something we are going to discuss. Maybe we will later. But it's not the subject right now about is it good or bad, but more it is happening. It's something that is going to further develop because we still are in a world where economic rules are important. So everything that drives productivity to a higher level is very attractive for company owners, shareholders, and that drives the business. So this integration of AI in all the processes, all the activities of companies is going to get very strong, extremely strong. That's at the level of the company. If we go to a level lower, within the organization, with managers, they are going to have much more information available to divide the activities, and they will also have the capabilities of artificial employees, which are nothing else than computer program, that will be able to do activities that normal humans would do, and decide by themselves, or even helped by computer program how to divide the activities between real humans and those digital humans.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a difficult process,
Mm-hmm.
quite a transformation, because, well, everyone needs a job to be able to feed himself and his family. And productivity is going to push really the new technology into those activities and really cause an enormous transformation. I mean, if you already look at the possibilities that are given by Copilot, which is a program from Microsoft, which is not implemented in Europe yet, but is being implemented, is already 126,000 companies in the USA. You see, people don't have to read their mails anymore. They don't have to go to meetings anymore. Everything is being processed by a computer program, and only the essential information is given to the employee, which means a lot of activities are fading away. So they will have to find kind of balance between what is going to stay human and what is going to be fully automated. And then a level lower is the very big question about employees. What are we going to do? And amazingly, we spend a lot of time within company exchanging information, processing information. If we would do that on the production level with physical items, we would be back 100 years ago. But when it comes to our mind and our brain activity, we are still at a very low level of processing. And all those activities are going to disappear. They're going to be unnecessary. Computer programs will interact with us. So the very big question that is getting there is, if I don't have any emails to read, if I don't have to go to meetings, what am I going to do within a company? What is the difference between what a computer can do or what I can do? If a computer is incapable of absorbing all the information that I usually process and find the solutions for the questions that are being asked within the context of the company, what am I going to add as an employee to help the company reach its goals? Or am I just going to be there as a social creature that also needs attention and a paycheck every month? Strange world.
Really strange world.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fascinating. There's a couple of questions that come up right away, right? And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about those questions. I'm trying to remember them, and I'm thinking, do I still think it's useful for me to? Well, I'm going to tell you the questions. I'm going to tell you what they are.
Yes.
But the question that I procedurally, practically have for you now is: do we still think it's the best thing for me now to tell my little story and then we go into the discussion, or not? Because I feel like it's natural. Maybe it is still, but let's
say natural. I think if we would be calling each other, just like we did before we did this real life, we would just ask the question.
Exactly.
So I think it's good to do that.
So the main question that comes up right away is when you start talking, you say it's going to be massively transformational, right? And you outline it. And what my mind jumps to is I imagine this indeed being transformational and in the way much like you described it, but I'm thinking, what is the timeline? And I'm also thinking directly like the top level of global corporate organizations is going to be one thing, but for your everyday mom and pop store or small medium enterprise, it's going to be another thing. It's going to be another timeline, right? So what is that timeline is one question. And well, the other question is, you said maybe it's not a discussion for today to think about, is it good or is it not good that a lot of human labor is going to be essentially automated away, or we're going to have the capacity and the capability to do that, and the economic incentive is in that case to do that, obviously.
Yes.
So is that good or is it not good? But I don't want to just ask that question. I want to connect that question to another thing. You said, well, all of us need that paycheck. We all
Yes.
need that monthly or whatever, bi-weekly or weekly money coming in, so we can pay for our life and our lifestyle. But I'm also wondering, like, been a lot of talk at least the last 2 decades that I've been tracking, about potentially really changing the system and moving towards something like UBI, right? And the last couple of years, there's been talk about funding a UBI through something like an AI or tech or cloud tax. So for the people who own these technologies to be taxed for them, and then to supplant the income for people through a UBI and pay through that
Yes.
way. So my question there, I guess, would be: is it a good thing or not that we can automate away jobs? But connecting that to the potential of a UBI or some type of solution like that, and can you imagine? That would be my question, I guess.
Yes.
Can you imagine a system, a world, a lived reality for humans where we feel comfortable ourselves with extracting value from the system without it necessarily being tied to our effort or the hours that we work, redefining our definition of our own value and contribution to society?
Yes.
Is that something that you see as feasible? And I guess I'm going to leave it at that, because otherwise I'm going to give you 6 questions. So just leave it at those 2.
Okay.
Yeah. How do you look at that?
Maybe the first thing about the timeline.
Timeline, yeah.
Because that's maybe the aspect of the change that mostly is not understood.
Yes, underrated, right?
Really underrated, strongly underrated. Every time we are very surprised about the new version that ChatGPT offers. As an example, we were already surprised that it went out into the market December 2022. But the pace is largely beyond our conscious, largely beyond our imagination, which means between now and 2, 3, 5 years or max, we'll have computer systems that have the level of understanding of a human being. So we are talking about general artificial intelligence.
Right.
It's maybe already present in a computer system that we don't know about, but it's very near. And because of the competitiveness of the market, it's not even thinkable that we now still have a choice. Are we going to use it or aren't we? It's not only a competition from company to company, it's even a competition on international level between countries that are trying to cope with the speed of change, and the company or the organization that will be forehead with all the developments is going to be the winning party. And I don't think it's going to be a government. It's going to be a large company that has invested a lot of money to develop such a system. So it's not even the question, is it bad or good? It's just inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we can't even decide whether or not we'll do something with it. It's going to occur. It's already occurring.
Right.
It's occurring every day. And if you see how many people are already using artificial intelligence in their life, it would be really strange to say, "Oh, I don't do it," while you're using it each and every day. So it's happening.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. The only question that is then, how is it going to change our society? How are we going to solve the problem that we need an income to be able to spend? And if there are no one spending money, then the economy is not going to run.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a general income, which you just mentioned.
Yeah.
The solution to keep the system running, knowing that at the first place, there was a time where there was no money.
Yeah.
and people were exchanging goods and services to take care of their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And those needs haven't changed. Only what we might experience is that those needs will be filled by computer system
Mm-hmm.
in a way that we get what we need and not go to extremes because we think we might need it but don't really need it.
Yeah, like sugary drinks, high levels of calories that we don't actually need.
No, why have a car if we only need to travel 10 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Which is useless.
Yeah.
Because the car is a lot of material,
Yeah.
which is parked 95% of the time doing nothing.
Yeah, but what this would require something like the grandest project in change management in the history of the world. Why do I say that? Is because when you talk about things like this, like a computer is going to decide for us
Yes.
what are the things that we actually need and don't need. There has been, so I think you and I probably both agree. I wonder,
Mhm.
but I think we probably both agree. Consumerism and marketing, the modern discipline as we know it now, were invented more or less together around about the same time after the Second World War, because there was a surplus in capacity of production. What are we going to do with this?
Yes.
The people who owned those factories and equipment and tools and platforms. What are we going to do with that? Well, we can use all of the beautiful psychology that we developed in propaganda during the world wars. We're going to change that into something that can pretty much massage people
Yes.
to believe that they need all of these things, and that then they'll have a better and more fulfilled life, and that then we can fill those gaps in their demand with the products and services that we provide with this production capacity. Now, what that story is also, what has been embedded in that story is a sense of freedom of choice.
Yes.
So I, as a consumer,
Mhm.
have the choice and have the freedom of choice to choose that I do want that very sugary drink or that high calorie snack, or that I do want that car that I don't really need.
No.
But I have that freedom of choice is,
Yes.
is what I feel like. And so the change management project that I'm talking about that we would need is to get people to think about what is actual freedom of choice mean. Does that really mean that I get to choose a bunch of stuff that I don't need, that are harmful for me, people around me, the planet? Or does it mean something else? And where does it lie? Will it lie completely with the computer? Will it lie with me? Is there some kind of way that we collaborate in making that choice? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
We're constantly fed with information that's trying to trigger us to want something we don't need.
Mm-hmm.
And that's necessary for the development of production and the results of companies.
Mm-hmm.
But is it a reality on a human perspective or on a planetary level? I guess no,
Mm-hmm.
because it has led to overconsumption,
Yeah.
destruction of our nature, of our own habitat. So we see that it's not a good drive for the development of our society.
Mm.
We can't keep on doing it that way. And in some sense, we also don't want to go on that way.
Yeah.
Because getting new things, it's nice for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But after a week, after a month, we get accustomed to it. And there's no need anymore.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
We might even feel, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing that we have more, and if we have less time working,
Mm-hmm.
because computers will do more,
Mm-hmm.
we may have more time to think through what we really are,
Yeah.
and what we really need,
Yeah.
and come to realize that we don't need to drive or fly all the way around the globe to feel happy.
Yeah.
That happiness is much closer than to our real actual life than anything that's beyond our reach.
Mm.
And that might be the largest shift that's going to take place through the development that are taking place right now.
Mm-hmm. And what would be that largest shift, if you would?
The shift from consumerism, the shift of only working days after days after days, and trying to find out sometimes to reflect on our own life around all these activities that are to be productive.
Yeah.
Instead of what you do a lot is meditating.
Yeah.
Just take the time to process the information that you have had along the day, process the emotions that you have had along the day, to find your own balance and to find out what really is meaningful to your life.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of our life?
Yeah, exactly, man. I could hardly agree with you more. I think of, when I hear you speak like this,
Yes,
I think of the Weeconomics Foundation, led by Paul Bessems. I think you know them.
I know.
Right?
I know
Yeah.
Paul. Yes.
Yeah, and their vision of the future that we are actually currently already able to start working to create
Yes.
together aligns very closely, I feel, with what you're saying, and in a sense, also with what I feel is a future that we could potentially create. But there's like a rub to it. There's like an obstacle or difficulty to it, in my view. And that is that all of the things that you're describing,
Yes.
and a lot of the things that I suppose that the Economics Foundation describes, or the things that I sometimes think about or write in my books about, go against the interests and the vested interests of a lot of people who, through the way that the system is set up right now,
Yes.
Have enormously more influence than a lot of other people on how things develop.
Yes.
So when you say, for instance, it's not a question of uh, are we going to have that general intelligence, the general artificial intelligence? When we do have it, are we going to deploy it? You're saying that's going to happen regardless because of the way the system is set up.
Yes.
And a part of, I would argue, a part
Yes.
of the way that system is set up is that there are people who have an interest, a deep interest in maintaining that competitive drive, maintaining their competitive edge for as far as they can, to keep winning in the game of us against the other,
Yes.
the game of more and more and more, and of increasing consumption far beyond what is actually needed, and to a point where it's difficult to conceive even of what is it that we actually need. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
that is an obstacle that I see, and it's funny. It's funny because when I listen to you speak, right, about the inevitability of it all on the one hand, but then on the other hand about the shift that you seem almost certain that is also going to take place, which has to do with our consciousness and our awareness and our lived experience. And when I hear that, I interpret it as the consciousness and awareness and lived experience when we're talking about the three levels in business.
Yes.
Of me, the individual professional or employee, or me as the manager of a team, or me as the leadership in an organization, but I'm still a human being.
Yes.
I still have consciousness awareness that is
Yes.
that is hopefully going to shift.
Yes.
So those two things I feel are forces that, so the inevitability of innovation just powering through and powering forward because of the way that our capitalist postmodern system is set up.
Yes.
It has to.
Yes.
And at the same time, and this is something that a lot of smart people and wise people have been calling for the last few decades, but it's something that I'm starting to see around me, is the other motion of shifting consciousness and shifting awareness. And that makes it so for me, and I'm really curious to see how you think about this, it makes it so for me that I'm not so sure what is and is not inevitable anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? As the consciousness shifts,
Yes.
does that potentially change something about so it's, if you can see it as two streams of movement, of change,
Yes.
does one influence the other?
Always.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
So and what could that potentially look like? I wonder.
The-
What is the bandwidth?
Yes. Before connecting the two with the one with the other, there's one thing very important that you mentioned about the power that in such a system resides
Yeah.
to influence people.
Oh yeah.
Because marketing has been very good at it all those years.
Yeah.
But we are reaching a level now that's far beyond what we have done in the past.
Yeah.
We used to have commercials on television trying to reach a lot of people. But now we are at the size of individual influence through a computer system that can access to anyone at the same time and create a message that's perfectly adapted to this singular person, which is very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's not only understanding the mechanism of our language, but also the mechanism of our emotional cues and of our psychology. You have studied psychology, and therefore understand how to manipulate human beings in a way that it can fulfill its needs. So the big question behind that, it's what will be the will or the goal of such a computer system. Is it going to be that of the owner of the company? Or is it going to access a level of awareness comparable or even higher than a human being and realize that the common good is much more important than the realization of capital, of money, of financial results?
Yeah.
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
So the machine could take over from the owner, from the shareholders, in a good way, and taking care of people in a better way than people do themselves, or could exploit people in a very easy way. So then let's go back to what you just asked, those two streams. One of the capitalism trying to create more momentum and growing and keeping its pace or even going quicker. And the other part of awareness, people are getting much more aware of who they are, what they need, what they want. And because we are going to have more time, we'll have also more time to do that. Is there a conflict going to take place there? It was a very difficult question I had to ask myself when I wrote my last book, and I found it quite dark place. Could it be a kind of revolution taking place? Revolution from human beings saying, I want to be human and I don't want to be manipulated or orchestrated or even conducted by an artificial intelligence system? Or are we going to find a way, a symbiotic way, to enable this wonderful power that is being built to create something that is good for human beings, but also for the nature around us? And those two scenarios, symbiotic or a revolution, well, if I had to choose, I would really like the symbiotic way. But the revolution could also be a possibility.
It's in the realm of possibilities, definitely, I would agree. And it's kind of like the threat of all-out kinetic nuclear war and wars with ABC bombs, etc., without the threat of AI, but just us humans. Is like it's on the table, it seems. But hopefully the odds of that actually happening are really small, and actually I feel like almost certainly our developing consciousness will have an effect on that. Same as, because this is interesting, in my book, Life Beyond AI, I more or less equate so let's take those two possibilities as the extremes, right? One is the revolution, bloody death, war, and the other one is a symbiotic relationship that we find. And I sketch a couple of those sort of extreme polarities in our potential future, but I equate those polarities and those extremes to ones that we've seen in the past. And what I argue is that in the past, whenever two opposing worldviews, two opposing ways of looking at what the world or the future could be, or could become, or sometimes should become. Let me give you one example. the capitalist worldview, so the view for a free market where capital rules and it will trickle down and everybody will be happy, versus the communist worldview, the socialist. No, we need to have one organization, being the state, who will divide all resources and everybody will be happy, right?
Yes.
Those two worldviews. What actually happened when those two collided? Well, what ended up was the way the way that we describe it and see it as is free market economies and capitalism won over communism and socialism.
Yes.
But actually, if you really look closely, the geopolitical West that has held the power in the world for a long period of time since the world wars, and is starting to sort of seem to me to be wobbling right now, those societies were actually smart enough to build themselves around this idea of free market capitalism and trickle down economies, but to also steal some socialist elements and make sure that there is a centralized government that is mainly in Northwest Europe and Scandinavia.
Yes.
They're saying, yes, we want the free market economy, but we also want to make sure that when it goes south for people, that they're taken care of.
Yes.
That everybody has decent means to live at all times.
Yes.
And those are actually the countries that work best. And if you look at the success of China now, it's the other way around. It's doing the exact same thing. It's saying we have this socialist foundation, but we want to integrate the parts of the other way of working that work. So what I'm saying right now is to say that the way that I'm looking at it right now is that we could have those two extremes.
Yes.
But if history serves as a decent reference, we could also expect something of a mixture between those two to occur.
It's funny you say that, because something very interesting could occur. The way you describe it is the way we humans have experienced history and develop as a society. But all those information that we have built through our history is precisely what is being digested by those artificial intelligence systems. So if they have learned well what history has been, it could bring the possibility that this conjunction of those two extreme scenarios could take place, orchestrated by such an artificial intelligence system upon the rules of the history we have experienced in the past, which would be great. So let's hope.
And then this is interesting. This makes me think two things. One thing is, when you started talking about how I was talking about the history and where I was leading you, I was thinking you were going to go towards this idea of the singularity, which is a fantastic concept, which almost contradicts anything we're trying to do here, which is to predict something. Which is to say that this idea of the singularity, it means the point after which everything you have learned before that, and everything you have learned and applied, and that worked for you before that point, stops working. All that you thought you knew is not relevant anymore. So that's a funny way of looking at it. It's like, and I also say this in my book, it's like we're trying, all of us are trying to predict the future as best we can, but at the same time, we know that there's a point coming beyond which, like at the edge of a black hole, none of us can actually look beyond that point.
No, we don't know.
So and the other thing that I was thinking is, before, when you were saying, when we were talking about the two extremes, right? So the clash, the revolution, or the symbiotic relationship toward the future. And you were saying that the systems, they could integrate all that they have learned from our history, and we could create something like that. And I'm thinking, as these systems advance, they get fed new information, which is available on the internet right now. So that means that if we put out more information on the internet that is talking about the way that we are shifting our own consciousness right now, and what you're literally seeing right now is a lot more people, young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, also my generation, millennials, but companies in general, we're all starting to think more in terms of sustainability. It's less important to be a consumer. It's less important to want to have all these things, right? Like you said.
Yes.
And you see this changing, and you see people starting to think about, well, what if we try to let go of this concept of constant competition and having competition here and cooperation as something that supports competition instead of the other way around, right? So you see these things happening, and what it makes me think is, well, what happens if we make a somewhat conscious effort to do more of that, to think more in those directions, and to actually put out more stories, content. I'm even looking at my fellow marketers who create the content that goes into the global consciousness of the world, right? Because every piece of every word, every social post, everything that you put out there is going into the consciousness of the world and potentially into the consciousness of an artificial consciousness toward the future.
Yes.
What would happen then if towards that actual realization of AGI, that developing AGI is being fed more and more content towards harmony, towards a greater good, towards a better future for all of us? What could that mean?
It's a great idea, because when you say that, actually you say, can we feed the machine with something that is related to more what we call the human social characters?
Yeah.
And there's something very interesting about also taking place with AI. There are some AI tools being developed to be able to understand the language of animals.
Oh yeah, it's great research.
So it means also that can be integrated.
Yeah.
We also know that in the ecosystem we live in trees, are in connection with other trees. I use language that is not understandable for us, but they use, for example, fungi to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
They use chemicals to communicate with each other. And why we cannot grasp this information as a human being, if the machine does and has the capabilities because they have the senses to be able to grasp this information, they could be able to understand something that is the origin of this planet, which is mostly a cooperation that enable the creation of life. So if this whole system of our planet, not only human being, but also the planet and plants and animals is understandable for a computer program, and he will integrate those rules, he could not be trying to destroy it, but trying to enhance it or trying to bring it into the society in a way that corresponds to where we come from. So it would be a great idea.
It's really interesting.
If we are able with AI system to get a bigger, larger awareness within a digital environment of what a human being is, what life is, what our planet is, maybe what our system is, where our planet moves, and we might reach another level of intelligence, of awareness within a system that goes beyond the limitation of what we have learned as a society, but what we feel from our intuition that we could do it another way, which would be better for ourselves and all the others around us. It could be great transformation.
Yeah, it could. It's an interesting line of thought, right?
Funny.
Towards wrapping up.
Yeah,
we're at 45 minutes, and I'm thinking these last few minutes. I'm thinking we promised people to tell them about what AI is going to mean for their business.
Yes.
And we got sort of sidetracked fairly quickly in the conversation and shot out into a little lofty philosophy. So I'm trying to think right now, what can we leave people with? Right?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm thinking maybe because you shared your thoughts on what it's going to mean more at a more sort of base concrete level at the beginning.
Yes.
I thought maybe it'd be nice if I shared my thoughts on that near the end.
Please do.
And maybe we do a couple back and forth around that for a few minutes, and then we say thank you to the people watching and to each other.
Yes.
And then end there.
Yeah,
Sound
sure.
good? Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So
If you want to Greece, then
yeah, I don't see anybody saying no.
so it's good.
Let's assume it's okay. So for me, when I was thinking about this question beforehand, right?
Yes.
And it's going to be a little bit tricky to not incorporate elements from our discussion into it now.
Yes.
But I'm gonna do that probably anyway. But making it a little bit more concrete, what I feel, and we've discussed, right, what the immense changes have already been with the development of technology up to this point. Like if you think back to the way your mind worked, the way your mind was before, let's say, 15 years ago,
Yes.
before you had this 24/7 external memory, external working memory, external intelligence in your hand and in your pocket the whole time.
Yes.
That difference from there to now, what our life is, what our experience is, I feel like that's going to be X10 or X100 towards the future.
Yes.
So that's how much different our life is going to be, and what I think that's going to mean for organizations is also at those three levels.
Mm-hmm.
For organizations as a whole and organizational leadership, I feel it's going to mean an immense pressure to innovate, but at the same time, immense capacity to innovate and create new ways of creating value for
Yes.
people. And the pressure being, how do we stay relevant in a really fast changing market, in a fast changing environment? How do we stay competitive, right? That's one. Another one for companies is going to be, well, with the help of data and smart systems, we can not only automate a lot of things, but we can actually reevaluate processes, our whole operation, and make it so much more efficient, but also way more cost efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And the third point that I feel is going to be important for organizations or companies as a whole is, okay, but how do we do all of those things in such a way that we are not just being compliant with laws and regulations, but try to go beyond that
Yes.
necessarily
Yes.
to be ethical and responsible in the way that we reboot our processes, create value, use technology to do so. And there being ethical, for me, it means thinking about what do the changes mean for the way that we treat our people, our internal stakeholders, for the way that we address and approach our external stakeholders, so customers and others like investors, etc. And what does it mean for society as a whole and the planet? And then from that level to down to the team level, I feel like it's going to bring again a balance of, well, how are we going to manage the balance between autonomy and freedom that we can give people versus insight using data and control.
Yes.
And how are we going to navigate that balance, making sure that we get the exact right person doing the exact right thing in a way that we never have been able to do before.
Yes.
The exact right person doing the exact right task in the project because you have the insights to give that person that task. And I feel like it's going to be possible, at least, to automate away all of the boring drudgery tasks,
Yes.
like with the Microsoft Copilot, and like with what Google is now offering a lot of their employees worldwide. In we don't have to look for a room, we don't have to look for a date if we want to have a meeting. The system's going to take care of that for us.
Yes.
We don't have to set an agenda. The system's going to do that for
Yes.
us.
Yes.
During the meeting, we don't have to take notes
No.
because it's being done, and we don't have to send anybody emails.
No.
That's beautiful. So now collaboration can be so much more seamless, so much more easy, and so much more fun, right? And then at the level of the individual, it's like, ooh, on the one hand, how am I going to keep up with all of this change, all of this innovation? How am I going to stay on top of all of the revelations and stay relevant to myself?
Yes.
How am I going to make sure that I don't get competed away by other people, other individuals that maybe have a faster pace of picking up the new technologies and new ways of working? And how am I going to mitigate the increased levels of digital fatigue and digital overwhelm that we already are experiencing worldwide?
Yes.
The mental health crisis is not a joke,
Yes.
and it's not coming from nowhere.
Yes.
There are clear reasons for that. And at the same time, as an individual, it's going to be like, I think, a fear, but in some cases a legitimate fear and risk of becoming irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? And how can we redefine our value in to society, to the tribe, etc. And finally, I think, so over all those three levels, for me, what it comes down to
Yes.
is two things. One is I feel this technology is a deeply reflective black mirror for us.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is to say that at a business level, team level, individual level, societal level,
Yes.
I feel like the technology is asking us, well, now stop, now think. Who do you really want to be? Who do you think you really can become? And who do you want to become? As an organization, as a team, as a person, as a society. That's one. And the other one is, if you want to figure out what that story is for you,
Yes.
as a company, again, as a team, as a person, what is that thing that I want to become, and what is that story of my future and my part in that future? I think it's important that we come together
Yes.
as individuals, like you and me right now,
Uh-huh.
as teams in an organization, but also from organization to the other organization in ecosystems. And it's necessary not just because now you have to do CSRD reporting, so you have to look beyond the company and into the ecosystem, but because developments in the world are making it necessary for us to look at that level,
Yes.
at how do we co-create that story
Yes.
from one person to the next, from one team, from one organization to the next, and from one type of consciousness to the next. How do we co-create that future that we want to build? So I'm hoping that is again not too lofty and philosophical for people, but it works, to think about
Yes.
like what are the steps that we need to be looking at right now as an organization or as an individual towards the near future.
Yes. There's always these first questions when changes occur: is what can we do? How can we start? How can we begin with? How can we be and surrounded with a lot of fear?
Yeah.
And you asked some questions about what's going to be the impact on those three levels, and while you were explaining that, there was an insight that came in saying, if those systems are so good in picking up the right person for the right job, why would we need to be another way than we are?
Yeah.
Why would we need to learn something else than we know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because first, we can't fake the system. We are not true to ourselves. So we wouldn't fit in the job. And until now, we need to learn some things to be able to work together. We need to learn some tools that were maybe not obvious for us. But there's no need for that anymore. If the machine isn't capable to identify the right person for the right job at the right moment, then why couldn't we just relax and know better who we are?
Yeah.
We should even get some help to understand ourselves.
Yeah.
And can the black mirror become a wonderful mirror telling us the real story of who we are?
Yeah, or, I mean, totally on board, up to the point where you say telling us. And there I would say, let's make it co-create. Let's make it a conversation where I'm having a conversation with the mirror.
Yes.
And in doing practices for myself, meditation, journaling, whatever it be, that it works for me to find myself. And then from the inside to the outside into conversation with other humans.
Yes.
Or with a smart system.
Yes.
Find who I am in the becoming of the next thing that I'm becoming, because I'm always evolving, right?
Yes.
So coming to that insight together, I could totally see a system helping us with that and making working life a beautiful experience towards the future, potentially.
It would be an obvious thing almost.
Yeah.
We could stay in the flow.
Yeah. So let's cap it. We're going to cap it at 45 minutes.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to answer one question, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to answer the same question, and then we're going to tell people, if you agree, what they can do if they want to learn more from your end, from my end, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yes, sure.
So the last question is, again, to try to make it as concrete as possible. If I either a leader in a company or a manager or leader for a team or an individual human being professional in a company. And I'm thinking about what is this AI thing going to mean for us? What do you think is the first question I should be asking?
I think you can't know, you cannot ask a question to other. You have to ask the question to yourself. So you have to reflect. What do I really want? What's important for me?
Yeah.
That would be the only relevant question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would be your?
I was gonna say, you need to ask yourself the question.
Yes.
Who do I or do we really want to be? And
Yes.
that is just other words of saying
Yes.
exactly what you were saying. So I was actually going to say, I'm not going to answer the question anymore because you stole my answer. So that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you. Okay, so for the people that are watching that maybe don't know you or that do know you and want to learn more about the way you think and what you can do for them, or want to be in touch with you after this, where can they go? What can they do?
They can check on the website brunofabre.com or the other where the book is, Homo Sublima.com, and they'll find all the details to be able to join.
Yeah, and so, to join, what would that mean?
Send a mail, send a message, anything, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see from there.
Yeah, great.
How can they reach you?
BrunoFabre.com.
BrunoFabre.com or HomoSublima.com.
Yeah.
How can they connect?
So for me, it's it's the logo up here, StoryLab.ai. You can go right there and you can join the community, or you can join the platform and check out all of the learning stuff. But you can also get in touch with me and my team. Or you could go to lifebeyond.one, which is my actual own website for my growth storytelling services. Or you could just connect with me here on LinkedIn. I really like making new
LinkedIn
friends.
Is perfect. Works good.
I'm sure that works for you as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so find us on LinkedIn, people.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.